A lady tell me her story. That name was Sophia Reed, and for 43 years I lived as a devoted wife and mother. When my husband Daniel Reed died suddenly from a heart attack, I felt like my entire world had collapsed. In the middle of my grief, my daughter Emily stepped in, acting caring and concerned, constantly telling me that I couldn't manage such a big house alone. I believed her at first, thinking she was worried about my well-being. But everything changed the day she arrived with her husband Mark and a couple of suitcases, calmly telling me that according to my husband's will, everything now belonged to her. I was shocked and tried to remind her that it was my home too, but she coldly replied that I needed to find somewhere else to go and that I was useless now. Those words cut deeper than anything else. Within hours, I packed 43 years of my life into 2 suitcases, and my own daughter dropped me at a cheap motel, handing me a small amount of cash and suggesting I look for a senior home. That night, instead of crying, I kept thinking that my husband would never have left me in such a situation, and something inside me told me that the truth was not what Emily had claimed. The next morning, I went to Daniel's lawyer, Mr. Collins, hoping for clarity. What I discovered there completely changed everything. The real will clearly stated that the house belonged to me and that I was entitled to 70% of all assets. Emily's share was conditional upon how she treated me after her father's death. Because of her cruel behavior, she had not only lost her inheritance but it had also been transferred to me. The realization was overwhelming, but it also gave me strength. The lawyer immediately recognized the situation as fraud and contacted the authorities. Within hours, bank accounts were frozen, and an investigation began. Emily, who had thought she had everything under control, suddenly panicked and called me, asking to resolve things peacefully. But this time, I was no longer the silent, obedient mother. I calmly told her that we would settle everything in court. Soon after, both Emily and her husband Mark were arrested for fraud and forgery. Their entire plan had been based on one assumption, that I was too weak to fight back. But they were wrong. I had been quiet for years, not weak. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. I was back in my home, financially secure, and finally living life on my own terms. Instead of depending on others, I started a foundation to help elderly people who face abuse from their own families, turning my pain into purpose. Meanwhile, Emily was facing the consequences of her actions. I had spent decades putting others first, but now I understood something important: respect is the foundation of every relationship, and without it, even family ties lose their meaning. I no longer saw myself as a victim but as someone who had found strength in the hardest moment of her life. This story shows that greed can destroy relationships, that silence should never be mistaken for weakness, and that truth always comes out, no matter how deeply it is hidden. If you were in Sophia's place, would you forgive your child, or would you choose justice? Think about it. Warning: this story is completely fictional and not based on real events, but the lessons it carries are very real and meaningful.